Hi. So the learner I want to tell you about was one of my grade 11 life science learners. He was a very enthusiastic learner, typically not disrespectful or unpleasant in his behavior, but he was very, very talkative, and he tended to be very disruptive in class because he had a lot of questions and a lot of his questions were off topic. So he loved to try and derail the lesson and go off on a tangent that had nothing to do with what we were currently busy with. So one knew that when he was in class, you had to be on your toes and direct his questions so that they stayed in line with what was being taught. So now on this one particular day, he was sitting at a back bench. I think it would help if I quickly explain what my class looks like. So in my lab, I have 4 lab benches, 4 on each side of the class, and the learners sit on lab stools behind the lab benches. And because of this configuration, which I can't change because the benches are bolted to the floor, I can't actually see what's happening on the floor for the last 2 rows of benches. So he was sitting at a back bench. In the beginning, he was, as usual, very chatty, had lots of questions, but once everybody had settled down and the lesson was underway, he did seem to focus. And at one stage, I turned around to write something on the board, and when I had turned back, he was gone, like he was absolutely missing from the classroom. I know he hadn't left the class because I was standing at the front of the class. So I walked to the back of the class and I found him sitting on the floor underneath his bench, and he had earphones in his ears and he was playing a game on his phone. So obviously that breaks a lot of classroom rules as well as school rules. And I confiscated his phone from him as well as his earphones, and I took them to the front of the class, and I also moved him to the very, very front of the class so that I could keep an eye on him, not just for the rest of that lesson, but for the rest of that year. So yes, I changed his seating. I confiscated his property, although I did hand it in at the office so that he could collect it at the end of the day. After that, I emailed his parents to inform them of his behavior in class so that they knew what their son was up to and that his property had been confiscated, but that the school was returning it to him so that they could take it further if they should choose to do so. And then I also issued him with the default, and it carried more weighting than the average default. So at our school, and standard default is for 5 points. This one was for 10 points, and it obviously reflects on their record for the rest of the year. So after that lesson, due to him being in the front of the class, he was less disruptive to his fellow learners. He was also more focused in class. He had a lot of academic potential. So if you could just help him to focus and not get distracted as easily, he did really well in his final exams that year. Also, my cell phone policy in class is I ask you, obviously, I don't want to confiscate cell phones because learners need them to take photos of the board if the bell is rung and there wasn't enough time, or we have WhatsApp groups where we send information and that type of thing. So my policy in class is if I see you playing on your phone, I ask you once to put it away and in your bag, not in your pocket. And if I see you again, I confiscate it for the remainder of the lesson, and or usually actually till the remainder of the day. So I have like a container at the front of the class where I can put the learners' cell phones. They can see their cell phone is there for the whole lesson. They can see it's not being damaged or anything like that. And then they can come collect it when the bell rings at the end of the day. So yeah, in that case, it worked really well. He wasn't caught playing on his phone again. And moving him in the class also helped him to focus for the rest of the year and achieve his academic potential.